Welcome to Truckee Talks. The Truckee River runs right through the middle of our town. When was the last time you stopped along its banks to listen to it, feel it, hear it, really enjoy the presence of that river in our town? Well, the very special guest on today's show is the Truckee River, and here to talk about it in the first segment is Sherry Mays from the Sierra Sun. Sherry, you're a features editor at the Sun?
Yes.
Well, it's nice to have you on the show. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Sherry, one of the things we wanted to talk about first off was just some of your personal experiences with the river and help kind of pull people in for the sense of what we're going to try to talk about in a little bit later on in the show. And you brought with you some slides. One of the first slides that you brought with you is kind of dramatic. It's not one of the prettier pictures of the river. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Well, actually, that slide is of the flood of '97, which everyone is well aware of, and you can see that's 89 buried under a few feet of water, making the poor Shell station an island. And actually, my experience with the river, I was not up here at the time. I was in Verdi. Actually, my husband works up here, so we were trying to get up here as his machinery was flooding. But it was quite a day, and it was something that I'd been at the river for or been living on the river for more than a year at that time. And just to be able to experience, going from a very docile river, at times, almost down to a trickle, to having something right up to my front door, was quite an experience, but beautiful all the same.
How was that experience for you? A lot of people in town really had to kind of scramble and sandbag, and what we were thinking of at certain times was probably more like that cursed river. Yet what it was really doing was what Mother Nature intended it to do, move water rapidly from one place to another.
Oh, exactly. I mean, that was the part about it that was so incredible, because we came home from Reno first thing that morning and had NDF crews sandbagging in our front door. And as my husband was trying to run shuttles of sandbags, I was trying to get things off the floor and just trying to see what was the most valuable to me and what I should take and not take, and shed a few tears. But in the when I had the chance to go back and kind of untie the shed from a tree, I realized, wow, this is pretty incredible. And just seeing how it's changed the river. I mean, the river has forever changed since that episode, and it'll continue to change. It's changed for many years, and that's the neat part about it.
You've seen the river also be used for more what we might call human function purposes. The next slide, I think, is one of water retrieval for a fire.
Yes, that was right after the Belli Ranch fire. There was a small fire up on Peavine, and since senses were so, the sensitivity to fire at that point was pretty high after we lost, 7,000 to 8,000 acres for Belli Ranch, and the helicopters came in, started dipping down right behind my house. That's looking straight across from our backyard, and it's just another thing that the river's used for. I mean, all through the years, you could trace it between whether it's brought economy, or economic advantages to the area. Fire suppression, recreation, it's incredible. I mean, it's used for so many things. You can't just say the Truckee River is from Tahoe City to Pyramid. It's more, it feeds farmers water, and down in Fallon, it's used for just so many different things.
Sure, it's its own biological entity. It has fish and water life. And
because that's the part that I really enjoyed was being able to see all the wildlife and the habitat and the different ecosystems, interacting on the river, and that's, it just raised my awareness of just how beautiful and how awesome the river is, and something that we really need to really grab a hold of and to appreciate and to really love.
Well, a couple of groups have already started to do that, and one of them that comes to mind is the Truckee River Habitat Restoration Group. Sarah Treblecock and Kathleen Egan and their group really deserve a lot of credit and kudos for the work that they're doing. They've had Truckee River Day now, the second, I believe, Truckee River Day was last year?
Yes, the second one.
And this is a volunteer outpouring of people from all walks of life all around the community. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, actually the restoration group is doing phenomenal things. I mean, I think they were the ones that really brought the awareness of the river to us. I mean, we can bike along it and we can see it from the road, but what they've done is, when you're talking 700 to 800 people to show up on one day to plant fish, to bring trees down there, to really learn about it. I mean, that's where our future of the river lies is with the younger generations, and to have so many children involved and having fun with it. I mean, that's where it brings it back to, you know, you kind of bring it back to the point where, you know, you're loving it and not hating it for flooding, or you know, the fights between different entities, who has water rights and this and that. I mean, you can lose sight of just the simplest things, like, hey, there are fish that are in there, and we need to protect them, and whether it's shading or whatever. I know, speaking with different people from the group, they're really looking for more support. You know, they have these projects, and it's you know, how projects lead to another project, and then the momentum keeps going. And River Day is just one. You know, Truckee River Day is one thing that is just so huge. It's so hard to say, well, what else we're going to do, because, you know, they have. I mean, it seems so minuscule, but anything that can be done. So they're really
Certainly
looking at.
help.
Yeah.
I know my experience has been that the Truckee River can be something to get around or get over or get past or get beyond in my travels in my car. But when I get out of my car and actually walk down to the river, my experience of the river is something completely different. And I'm assuming and hoping that that's what's going on for those 600 or 700 people that show up at Truckee River Day as well, that they get a more intimate sense of what the river is.
Oh, I definitely think so. I mean, I think that there's no way that you can ignore just the tremendous beauty of the river. And I think if you spend enough time there, I would welcome everyone to just go down and spend a good, you know, I'd say 10 minutes, you know, just get out of your car and get down there and listen to it and look at it. I mean, right now the river's running so high and it's so gorgeous. I mean, it's green, and you look down and it's not green because it's, you know, it's icky green. It's, you know, it's it's just so clear, and you can feel the, you know, the cool, you know, the coolness that comes from it, you know, just that, you know, as it rushes past you, and really just take some time, go down there and appreciate just what runs right through our town, the heart of our town.
Sherry, you've been involved with a group, and we're going to be talking in more detail in the next segment of this show about that group, the Truckee River Legacy Foundation. But I'd like to hear how you got snared into this group. I'd like to hear your experience of that.
Hook, line, and sinker on that one. Well, actually, my publisher, Peter Costas, had mentioned that there was a project being headed up at Rotary. There's something being mentioned, and there was some buzz about a trail project. And so as a reporter and editor for the community, you know, I jumped right on it. Great, trail, river, oh, sounds good, you know, sounds good, you know. So he told me, call Marshall Lewis and see if you can get some information, see what's going on. And as soon as I talked to Marshall, I had never met him before, and as soon as I talked to him, his enthusiasm and just pure love of the project just caught me. I mean, we talked for, I don't know if it was an hour or something, just talking about the river and talking about experiences and just what a great project this would be. And so I got invited to a meeting, and from that point on, I mean, just talking about how great a project it would be to just provide access to the river. I mean, it seems like a simple concept, you know, but it takes a lot of planning, a lot of true planning. And if we get through all the, you know, the touchy-feely stuff, which is what the group basically experienced in the beginning of the first couple meetings, and then get down to the nuts and bolts of it, it's quite an enormous project, but one that I think, you know, everyone can embrace, and really, I think it'll bring a lot of pride to our area and a lot of pride for the Truckee, and I think it's a tremendous taking.
My experience with this whole project has been that every time you talk to somebody about it, they're in. They're not just interested, they're in. They want to be involved in it, so it doesn't surprise me at all that you would have jumped in. Who's going to be able to use this trail, Sherry? Who is it for?
Actually, hopefully everyone. It's definitely not, you know, in the planning, it's not excluding anyone. And I know that there are a lot of discussions about, you know, what kind of surface would be used. You know, who could use the trail, whether you know, it's a mountain biker or a walker. You know, the initial plans were to provide, for the first phase, is to provide access, you know, from East River Street to the park. So that gives a whole different dimension. I know we talked about people wanting to get downtown but not wanting to go down 267. So, you know, at this point, I think in the first phase, you know, whether it's, you know, hikers, you know, people that just want to get down to the river, people enjoying the park, wanting a little break, wanting to picnic, and then later on, I think it's almost like a living document. Almost nothing's in stone. And that's the nice part. Will change as the river changes. Kind of in, you're looking in concept. It's what people want. So as the use progresses, or more people use it, and then you kind of listen, it'll be used by everyone. I can't see anyone being excluded. I think the only thing that we're trying to do now is not to, in the planning, not to exclude people that really just want to enjoy the river. So not making it, a high-speed raceway for,
sure.
Anyone that just wants to fly by the river right now. No, you're just
Right.
you're gonna have the opportunity just to relax and really enjoy it.
Right. Sherry, thank you for sharing with us your personal experiences with the Truckee River. We'll have you come back on the second segment and talk a little bit more about it.
Thanks.
We are talking about the Truckee River today on Truckee Talks, and we'll be back in just a minute. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about the Truckee River, and with us on this segment of the show is Marshall Lewis from our Truckee River Legacy Foundation. Marshall, welcome.
Thank you.
And welcome back, Sherry Mays. Marshall, Sherry shared with us in the first segment of the show her personal experiences with the river, and that was a good lead-in to what you're going to be talking about. What is the Truckee River Legacy Foundation?
The Truckee River Legacy Foundation is it's a grassroots effort, actually. It's a community-based organization whose goal is to develop an access system to the river. This grew out of the Truckee Rotary. The Truckee Rotary raises and contributes to the community about $50,000 a year. And about a year ago, we started thinking that we'd like to do something a little bit longer term, more in terms of a legacy. And through focus groups and a lot of discussion with the various members of Rotary who represent virtually every business in town and virtually every group in town, everyone from council members to business owners to, it's just a very broad-based organization. We narrowed this idea of a legacy project to a trail system along the river. This was identified by a lot of people during the general plan process as something that the community wanted. The Recreation and Parks District also did quite a bit of research in terms of what is it the community wanted for recreation, and trails came up again as a very, very strong leader in what was seen as a need in the community. So it seemed a natural fit for us to get involved. We talked with the town of Truckee, and they felt, well, they have a lot more pressing needs right now, and the chances of actually a trail system reaching the forefront or the top of the pecking order for public funds was non-existent, and will be for some time to come. Wetness our roads.
Maybe we need a trail system on the roads.
That's probably the better way to go. It was a natural fit for the Rotary Club, and we realized that during the process of building this, we were going to need to develop a vehicle to be able to administer the funds and so forth, and out of that grew our Truckee River Legacy Foundation.
Now, where are you in terms of planning? Have you already created part of the trail system? Are you in the planning stage? Are you somewhere in between?
Well, that's a real exciting part of this whole thing. A year ago we were just talking about the concept, and now we're having meetings discussing how we're going to build, what the surface, as Sherry was talking about, what the surface will be, and how we're going to get over these rocks here, and we're getting very specific. So we do have one phase of it, which is getting very close to final design, and that will be a phase one, which I'm sure we'll talk about in more detail. The remainder of the trail system will be built as time goes by. We're actually looking at this as a 100-year project. We feel that that if there are obstacles to this now, for the next generation there may not be. So we'll take the first segment and do that hopefully this next summer. The second segment we see happening probably within the next 2 years, which will be connecting the existing footbridge across the Truckee River to the new or the planned ball fields over by Truckee Sanitary District offices.
Marshall, has there been any concern expressed about building a trail system and the possible degradation of the river at that point? What's being done to preserve the river?
Absolutely. I think we're all concerned with that. We love the river. Every time we go down there, we're in awe of this jewel, this resource that we have. It's so refreshing to be there. So we don't want to love the river to death. What we're really looking at is input from virtually anyone who wants to give us input, and we've gotten a lot of it. And how do we do this right? And we have time to do it right. We would like to guide people to the river. You know, the population growth in Truckee is going to be phenomenal in the next 20 years. So the pressure on the river from this tremendous population is almost inevitable that we'll have degradation. So if we don't take this in hand now and guide people along the river and invite them to specific spots where we can, let them enjoy it without just creating trails hither and yon and destroying it just because they're enjoying it. If we guide it correctly, people will be able to enjoy it, and hopefully out of that will grow an awe of it, a respect for it, and a desire to protect it.
Let's talk about that first segment of the river. I'd like to show, or first phase of the river access trail system. We'll show this on camera, and Marcia, if you just walk us through this, I'd like to kind of share with the audience where that first phase begins. And I'll start right here, and if we can get this on camera 1, we can actually show the audience what we're doing. Okay, so this line, first of all, this blue band, Marshall?
That's the Truckee River,
okay.
Right along East River Street there.
And this crossing?
That's the existing bridge that it has gates on it right now. And by the way, I have the key.
That is a step.
That's nice. Call me. That's the bridge going across the river as it exists right now.
Okay.
And when we cross the bridge
on East River Street.
On East River Street,
okay.
At the end of East River Street, then we'll turn west along. What we're using is the upper surface of the existing sewer line, which serves Tahoe City, Squaw Valley, all of the communities from Lake Tahoe.
So this is an already graded area?
Exactly.
Then. Okay.
It's almost like a road already. So that's what makes this thing so easy to conceptualize, because there's almost a roadbed there. And so we're not going to have to cut, we're not going to have to do much of anything more than put a surface over the top of it and make sure that there's a good erosion control and accessibility for handicapped and those kinds of things. So as you're heading west there, the little square that you see right there, that's the existing barbecue area, public
okay.
area for parties and family gatherings and so forth.
Okay.
That is part of the regional park. So we'll be crossing behind that. And one thing that's important to note is that we're quite a ways back. We're still out of the floodplain.
I was going to ask you about that. How much of the river can you actually see from here?
You have a great view of the river. You can see it, you can smell it, you can hear it. It gives you a real feel for the river, but it keeps the traffic back far enough that the fly fishermen and the people who really want to be down there in the real serenity of it, they're not really going to notice the people going by. Where your finger is right now, we're heading now, starting to go uphill.
Okay.
And what we're developing here is a way that children on their bicycles or mothers pushing strollers, we want to grade there that people aren't going to be going Mach 1 by the time they get down to the river level.
Kind of slow them down a little bit.
Yes, we'd like to keep it user-friendly. So we'll eventually wind our way back up alongside the river,
okay.
Well above the houses and the folks who live down there at the other side of the river, back up to the parking area that now exists for the regional park.
So this is directly across the street from Palisades Drive then, and this is where the trail will end up?
Well, yes. Where your finger is right now, yes. You're
okay.
right across from Palisades.
Okay.
And that'll eventually be a stoplight, I believe. The town has that in the plan.
That's correct. Sherry, share with us, did you go on any of the original walks when this path or this trail was kind of being thought of?
Yeah, actually, I went out on the first, I think it was the first walk with the majority of the Rotary. I think it was that one luncheon, and was invited out to take some photos, and I think we have some photos on file of the original Rotary key and opening up the gates, and it was definitely a fun day. But hiking up that what is now going to be the trail was pretty exciting.
What was your sense of that as you were walking along the river? What was your experience?
My experience, I'd have to say, it was actually kind of neat to see everyone else's reaction, because for me, I was a shoo-in. No one had to
You'd already sold.
Yeah, no one had to sell a river trail to me. So, but it was, the excitement was definitely there, and I liked the camaraderie, and I think people were finally embracing the fact that it was going to be just a terrific opportunity, a great project, a wonderful project.
Marshall, this is a large undertaking. What other agencies are involved?
The agencies that are officially involved really are the Truckee Recreation and Parks District, the town of Truckee, obviously, Truckee Sanitary District, Truckee Tahoe Sanitation Agency, and of course the Airport Board eventually will have some impact from this. So those are at this point we have resolutions of endorsement from those agencies that we're actually using their land and their facilities, and they're public agencies, and all of those boards have virtually repeated themselves and said, this is public land, it's something the public has indicated they would like to have access to, and by golly, we're going to make it happen. So it's been just a resounding, wow, let's do it. Other agencies that are involved, obviously Fish and Game, Lahontan, Regional Water Quality, the non-official agencies like the Truckee River Habitat Restoration Group, fly fishermen, those kinds of people, even the property owners along East River Street. We've met with all of those folks too, and so all of the various groups that are being impacted one way or another have been contacted, and they're very enthusiastic, very positive about it.
Well, that's great to hear. It's nice to see one project that everybody can get their hands around instead of that kind of infighting and turf war that we see in so many other political arenas. How has this been addressed in terms of leadership? We talk about the foundation, and yet you're working with a lot of other agencies here. Who's going to be the lead dog on this?
It's our Truckee River Legacy Foundation is the facilitator. Our job is to bring people together in what we're referring to as productive partnerships, find the right people who want to get in, get their hands dirty, get the job done, and there have been a number of people step forward. Mike Sullivan is an engineer who's done a tremendous amount of work for us already. But people have just been stepping forward, and our job is to coordinate that, try to find people who will donate materials, people who want to get involved as far as donating labor. We obviously are going to have to raise some money, and that's going to be a long-range project. Not only do we have to raise money for the building of the trails, the various phases, but then we have to raise money for maintenance, and that's a long-term challenge and goal for all of us, is to sustain this over the years and the future generations of Truckee, both residents and visitors. And
I should remind the audience at this point too that at the end of the show we will be showing an address and a way to get in contact with the foundation. And if you're interested in either volunteering, labor, materials, time, expertise, all of those will be needed over a long period. This is, as you said, this is not an overnight sensation. No. So, Marshall, when can people expect to start seeing things? If it's not overnight, when will the first phase really have some evidence? We're hoping that we'll actually break ground sometime this summer. Obviously, with the amount of snow we have on the ground right now, the ground is going to be a little bit soft and a little delicate to deal with. We expect to break ground probably in July. Okay. And we're hoping that this will be completed by September. The first phase of the program. The first phase will be. And then subsequent phases to that will be an annual undertaking, or? We're hoping that the phase 2 out to the new ball fields will happen within the next 2 years. Okay. And then we really jump into the big challenges, go from there out to Glenshire. And so from the new ball fields to Glenshire, that could be within hopefully the next 5 years. We start going back in the other direction. We're looking at connecting downtown Truckee to Highway 89, and then eventually from Highway 89 out to Donner Lake. And with that, then we have connected the trails that go up to Tahoe City. And the Donner Rim Trail. And the Donner Rim Trail.
And North Star and Lahontan already have plans on the table and money funded to have connecting trails from their housing down to our trail system. So by the time we get this completed in the next 100 years, we'll have a trail system of about 100 miles.
How does the community have their input on this process? This is obviously going to have some impacts on the entire community, and how will they get involved and have their voice and say their say?
I think just about anyone in town knows a Rotarian. No, we've
Who
had
hasn't been asked to buy a Cadillac ball ticket?
Really. We've had a number of meetings. We will continue to have meetings on this. Anyone who would like to have input, we have a meeting every other Thursday and Ask a Rotarian. They'll tell you where and how to get in touch with us. Okay. We're very accessible and want everybody to tell us their concerns and make sure that we do it right. We have time to do it right.
And have you been already addressing some of those concerns? I know that you had a meeting with the East River Street property owners.
We certainly did, and one of the things that rang loud and clear is they want to make sure that the visual impacts, when they look out their back door, which they've enjoyed the pristine beauty of the river, they don't want to see a cut bank, they don't want to see a lot of negative visual impact from their back doors, and you can't blame them, and we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Okay, Marshall, I'm going to ask my floor director to cue up a slide, and I'd like you to read, if you would, the vision statement that the Truckee River Legacy Foundation came up with. If we could get slide 6, Still Store 6 up, really think that that would be a good way to kind of wrap up this show and emphasize where this program is heading and how it came to be. So Marshall, if you could read that, and hopefully we'll get that Still Store up.
I would be happy to.
Thank you.
This is one of those things that we sat and really crafted, trying to think of how do we communicate. Our vision for our Truckee River Legacy. The Truckee River is the heart of our town. It has supported and enhanced our town throughout Truckee's existence. Our gift to future generations and ourselves will be to honor the river by making it accessible while preserving and protecting it. The river will entice us to walk beside it, hear its rushing in stillness, gaze upon it from parks along its banks. It is our obligation to do this. It is our Truckee River legacy.
Marshall, I never hear that without getting goosebumps. I have to say, too, in fairness to the audience, that I've been involved with this project, and it has been a tremendous honor to be a part of this. It's also been very exciting. I know Sherry and I both get misty whenever we hear that River Legacy statement. It is so broad and yet, to many, such a no-brainer that we would finally take care of the river that runs right through the middle of our town and recapture it and enjoy it for what it was meant to be and not ignore it as some obstacle to get around. I applaud you, Marshall. I know that you and Frank Bulkley have done a tremendous amount of work on this, and I applaud your efforts on that. Sherry, you as well have put in a lot of energy, and thanks to you for that. If you're at all interested in getting involved in this, and keep in mind this is going to be going on for a long time, as Marshall said, get in touch with a local Rotarian. We will be showing the mailing address at the end of the show, and you can also write to us. Thank you for joining us here today on Truckee Talks.